It's wonderful to have you all here with us this evening for obviously a very popular and very important and timely debate. As I say, this is an important part of the Cultural Exchanges Festival, which we run on behalf of the university within the Faculty of Humanities, although we are very happy to be here within the Faculty of Business and Law this evening. The event that you are about to enjoy is actually run largely by our third-year students, so very, very, very well represented by Helam and many of the other students here, and we're very pleased for them that there's been such a good response to this event. And I think that we are going to have a very interesting and wonderful debate, and I'm now going to hand you over to Ramiz, who's going to conduct you through the evening. Welcome.
I'd like to start off by saying hello, good evening, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The purpose of today's discussion dialogue is to provide an insight into the two ideologies, Islam and atheism. The aim of today is to achieve and acquire a better understanding of both perspectives. Just a quick profile on our speakers. Dr. Stephen Law is a philosopher and senior researcher, lecturer at the University of London. He is also an editor of the philosophical journal Think, which is published by the Royal Institute of Philosophy. Dr. Stephen Law has published academic papers on a variety of topics. His most recent focus is on the philosophy of religion. Dr. Stephen Law has published both a variety of academic papers and more popularly introductory books, including children's philosophy books. Hamza has actually asked me not to do a profile on him. Arguably looks more Pakistani than me, but is actually a Greek convert to Islam, a senior researcher and lecturer for the Islamic Education and Research Academy, IERA. Just to go through a few etiquettes of today, all mobile phones should be switched off, and if they're not switched off, then please you put them on silent. When the speakers are speaking, there should be absolute silence, so everyone should remain quiet and obviously give respect to both the speakers. To leave all questions for the Q&A session at the end. The structure of today's dialogue will be as follows. Each speaker will have a time limit of 20 minutes for their opening statement, followed by a 10-minute response to the opening statement. Then finally, right at the end, there will be an opportunity for the audience, i.e. yourself, to get involved in the Q&A session. Finally, if any of the speakers goes over their time limit, I will allow them to continue to finish off the next point, and basically what I'll do, I'll extend the time limit so they both get equal time. And I'd like to call Hamza Andreas Tzortzis, hope I said that right, to give us his opening statement.
I'm going to start as Muslims do in the name of God. In alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Brothers, sisters, and friends, and those who are undecided, I greet you with the Islamic greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For those who don't know what that means, it actually means may the peace and blessings of God be upon you all. Islam or atheism? We have a question here today, brothers, sisters, and friends. How are we going to answer this? Well, I think the best way to answer this is to use the rational method of thinking. To use our logic, our reasoning, our previous experience, so we apply to the whole cosmos and the universe to come to a conclusion. And I believe if we stick to this method, we're going to come to the conclusion that there are good reasons to believe in the Islamic worldview. This is why the famous professor Edward Monte said, Islam is a religion that is essentially rationalistic in the wider sense of the term. And to argue that the belief in Islam is rational and therefore probably the right choice, I will use the following arguments. 1, the belief in Islam makes sense of the origins of the universe. 2, the belief in Islam makes sense of the nature of the Quran, which is the book of the Muslims. So let's go straight to the first argument. The belief in Islam makes sense of the origins of the universe. Now, we've all asked the same questions. Where did the universe come from? Why does something exist rather than nothing. This is part of our Western tradition as well. The great German polymath Leibniz, he said, the first question that should be asked and answered is that why does something exist rather than nothing? In this light, the Quran, which is the book of the Muslims, also says, oh, do they think the universe came out of nothing? Now, how do we respond to this question? Well, if we respond like Bertrand Russell did, who was a philosopher atheist in the 60s, he said, the universe is just a brute fact. It's just there. Has no beginning and no end. It's eternal. Just don't think about it. It's just a reality that's just a brute fact. If we conclude the way he has, then it leads to absurdities. Let me tell you why. Because if the universe didn't have a beginning and had no end, it would mean the universe is eternal. Which would mean that the universe has an infinite history. There's an infinite history of past events. But we ask the question, can there be an infinite of anything in the real world? No, they can't, because it leads to paradoxes and absurdities. Let me give you an example. Say we have an infinite number of Stephen laws in this room, okay? And say we take away 10 Stephen laws away. How many Stephen laws do we have left? Infinity or infinity minus 10. Whatever the case may be, in the practical real world, we should be able to count how many Stephen laws are in this room, but we can't. So it leads to absurdities. Let me give you another example. Say, for instance, we have 100 Stephen laws in this room, and at every possible moment, we add another Stephen law. Stephen law 101, Stephen law 1,000,001, Stephen law 1,000,000,001, and so forth and so forth. Will I ever reach a number of Stephen laws that I could describe as infinite? No, because we could always add another Stephen law at every possible moment. This is why mathematicians Kasman and Newman, they said the infinite certainly doesn't exist in the same sense that there are fish in the sea. And the famous German mathematician David Hilbert, he said, the infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature, nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely just of an idea. This is why the mathematicians say it only exists in the mathematical realm of discourse. You can't take the concept and extract it or export it into the real world. But let's go back to the universe. Can the history of the universe be infinite? No, it can't. Because the history of the universe, past events, are real things. So it necessitates that the universe can't be infinite because we described that the infinite can't be applied in the real world. Therefore, the universe must be finite. And if it's finite, it had a beginning. If it had a beginning, then it necessitates it has a cause. And this is also supported by astrophysical evidence, by scientific evidence. Has everyone heard of the Big Bang Theory? Put your hands up. Good. And it's not that thing that happens after too many curries, okay? Now, the Big Bang Theory, also known as the hot standard model, dictates to us that physical time and space were created